Let's talk about one of the most unintentionally fascinating episodes of With Love, Meghan. And by fascinating, I don't mean groundbreaking, heartwarming, or inspiring. I mean it's one of those rare pieces of television, so overly produced, so desperately curated, and yet so strangely hollow that it loops back around and becomes deeply entertaining for all the wrong reasons. This is episode 3, and the guest of honor is none other than Tan France, the beloved style expert from Queer Aja Man, whose effortless charm and grounded personality end up stealing the spotlight simply by existing. And that's what makes this entire episode such a spectacle. Not because of what Meghan does, but because Tan's normalcy ends up throwing her entire carefully constructed persona into sharp relief. From the very first scene, you can feel a strange tension in the air. Meghan greets Tan with a beaming smile and an immaculately staged home environment: fresh flowers, pristine countertops, soft lighting that looks like it was pulled straight from a Williams-Sonoma catalog. The setup is so picture-perfect that it feels less like a real living space and more like the set of a lifestyle commercial. She greets him with a hug and, in a surprising move, immediately hands him a stack of children's books as a gift, including her own much-discussed The Bench. And let us be real for a second, The Bench isn't your typical bedtime story for toddlers. It reads more like a deeply personal love poem to Prince Harry disguised as a picture book. It's beautifully illustrated, yes, but it's also deeply introspective. The kind of thing you'd expect to be shared privately or gifted to close friends. Not something you hand to a guest you've never met on camera. Tan, being the gracious gentleman that he is, accepts it warmly, his smile kind and diplomatic. But there is a flicker of polite confusion that sets the tone for the rest of this episode. It's not malicious, it's just awkward. The kind of awkward that happens when a carefully scripted moment doesn't land. And that awkwardness only snowballs from there. The moment Tan steps into the kitchen, the contrast between him and Meghan is striking. He has this natural warmth, this relaxed energy that instantly fills the room. He takes off his decorative sweater draped over his shoulders in true Tan fashion and casually tosses it aside, like, all right, let's cook, let's be real. That single gesture says more about him than a scripted intro ever could. He's comfortable, he's present, and he's not trying too hard to impress anyone. Meanwhile, Meghan floats around the kitchen in a perfectly styled outfit, hair and makeup flawless, sweater artfully layered like it's part of her brand identity. She keeps it on, even as they start cooking, carefully moving around the countertops like someone who wants to appear domestic without actually getting messy. It's a subtle thing, but it's telling. It's the difference between someone living in their home and someone performing in their home. Meghan's kitchen feels like a curated backdrop, and she, the star of the show, seems determined to stay on brand at all costs. The episode is meant to feel cozy and intimate, but instead, it feels staged. To vibe Tan unintentionally dismantles with his authenticity. Then comes the cooking segment, and this is where the episode truly veers into I can't look away territory. Tan starts preparing French toast from scratch, explaining how he makes it every single morning for his 1- and 3-year-old children. The way he talks about it is genuine, filled with warmth and love. You can feel that this is a man who truly enjoys nurturing his family. It's not a production moment for him, it's real life. And that sincerity makes what happens next even funnier. Meghan, trying to keep up with Tan's domestic ease, picks up the finished French toast, arranges it on a plate with meticulous care, and then garnishes it with dried flowers. Yes, dead flowers. The visual is almost comical. Golden, buttery French toast with a drizzle of syrup, crowned with crispy, shriveled petals that look like they belong in a potpourri bowl rather than a breakfast spread. Tan's expression, while polite, says it all. There's a flicker of amusement, a moment where his eyes betray his inner monologue of okay, sure, and that single glance is worth more than 1,000 words. It's unintentionally hilarious because it's so Meghan, so perfectly emblematic of the disconnect between presentation and reality. Instead of food you'd actually eat, it looks like a prop for an Instagram photo shoot, and that's the recurring theme of this episode. Everything is arranged to look perfect, but perfection has no flavor. The episode then transitions into a craft activity, and this is where Meghan's obsession with aesthetics really starts to unravel. The plan is to make custom aprons for Tan's kids, which on paper sounds sweet and wholesome. But the execution, oh, it's chaos. First, Meghan asks Tan what colors his children like best. Now, pause for a moment. His kids are 1 and 3. 1-year-olds don't even have a favorite color, they barely have object permanence. Yet Meghan leans in with genuine curiosity, as though she's expecting a thoughtful answer, which makes Tan's polite response even funnier. He plays along, but there is a moment where you can almost hear the collective sigh of parents watching at home, all thinking the same thing. Lady, my toddler's favorite color is whatever crayon they're currently chewing on. And then comes the craft setup itself. Instead of choosing something simple like paint stamps or stickers, Meghan decides they should carve shapes into potatoes using cookie cutters to make homemade stamps. The idea sounds whimsical in theory, but in practice, it's a sticky, slippery nightmare. They're both struggling to grip these slimy potato slices, trying to stamp hearts and stars onto aprons, and it quickly devolves into the kind of mess that's more frustrating than fun. At one point, Tan grabs a fork and starts stamping with that instead, laughing at the absurdity of it all, while Meghan gamely pushes forward, still trying to project calm, artsy vibes for the cameras. The whole thing feels like a Pinterest craft tutorial gone horribly wrong, and it's brilliant in its awkwardness. What makes this segment so unintentionally revealing is how Tan thrives in the chaos. He's comfortable being messy, improvising, laughing at himself. Meghan, on the other hand, seems almost allergic to spontaneity. Every movement feels rehearsed, every smile carefully placed. She's not having fun so much as she's performing fun, and that's a crucial difference. This dynamic continues throughout the episode. Tan brings warmth and authenticity, while Meghan seems trapped in her own image, carefully curating every moment to fit a brand aesthetic that, ironically, feels more hollow the harder she works at it. Later, there's another filler sequence where Meghan wraps gifts again, not once but twice during the same episode. There's no emotional payoff, no story attached. It's just footage of Meghan meticulously wrapping boxes in pastel paper and tying decorative twine around name tags. It's the kind of thing that works as a quick Instagram reel or TikTok snippet, but in a long-form Netflix show, it feels like padding a way to keep Meghan on screen without having to show anything meaningful. And that's the root problem of this entire episode. It's all image, no substance. Even the editing draws attention to this hollowness. The voiceovers are clearly patched in after the fact, and anyone familiar with video production can spot the clumsy audio stitching. One moment, you're watching a wide shot of Meghan arranging a fruit tray, and the next, there's a sudden zoom paired with narration that doesn't quite match the visuals, creating a sense of disconnect. The show tries so hard to create intimacy, but instead, it feels like you rewatching a series of Instagram stories glued together with stock music and soft lighting. And yet, for all its flaws, it's deeply watchable because Meghan's struggle to seem relatable is so transparent that it becomes its own kind of drama. She wants so badly to project warmth, but warmth can't be faked. Tan doesn't have to try. He just shows up and is himself, and that authenticity makes him magnetic. There's a particularly revealing exchange when Tan talks about his husband's love of baking bread, describing how kneading dough has become a form of meditation for him. It's a small detail, but it resonates because it's real and unpolished. Meghan tries to mirror that authenticity with a quip about how her version of that calming ritual is drinking wine. But instead of being funny or relatable, it comes off as tone-deaf. The wine mom joke might have landed in another context, but here, it feels at odds with her carefully cultivated wholesome image. These moments pile up over the course of the episode, each one pulling back the curtain a little more. Meghan tells a childhood story about buying a real diaper bag for her dolls, an anecdote clearly meant to demonstrate her lifelong maternal instincts. But instead of feeling organic, it feels rehearsed, like another carefully chosen bullet point in her PR narrative. By the end of the episode, it's not Meghan who leaves a lasting impression. He's charismatic without effort, funny without trying, and deeply likable because he doesn't seem concerned about how he's being perceived. His presence unintentionally highlights the show's biggest weakness, that Meghan is less a person in this series, and more of a brand avatar. The crafts, the lattes, the pastel fruit platters, the delicate dried flower garnishes, they all feel like props, in a performance meant to project domestic bliss and creativity. But instead of connecting viewers to her, they create distance. It's like watching someone's Instagram feed in motion. Beautiful, polished, but strangely empty. Even Chrissy Teigen, who appears later in the series and is hardly known for subtlety, comes across as more grounded and real. Chrissy is chaotic, yes, but her chaos feels authentic, whereas Meghan's calmness feels constructed. What's truly fascinating about this episode is that it's a masterclass in overproduction. You can practically see the effort dripping off the screen. The perfectly lit countertops, the coordinated outfits, the curated kitchen decor that looks like it was ordered from an influencer's Amazon storefront. There's an obsession with creating a Viba-specific brand of West Coast chic. Part Pinterest dream board, part lifestyle magazine spread. But the harder the production team leans into this aesthetic, the more viewers feel the hollowness underneath. The most compelling reality shows or documentaries succeed because they strip away pretense and let the audience see genuine moments. Here, everything is so calculated that even Meghan's attempts at vulnerability feel like scripted soundbites. This episode inadvertently becomes a character study, not of Meghan's personality, but of her brand management. Every gesture, every camera angle, every decorative garnish is part of a narrative that seems desperate to position her as a warm, creative, relatable woman who also embodies elegance and sophistication. The problem is, these qualities don't coexist naturally when they're forced. The tension between trying to seem down-to-earth while also projecting an image of perfection creates a strange, uncanny valley effect. Watching Meghan host Tan is like watching a simulation glitch. The curated perfection doesn't match the human interaction happening in real time, and that's why viewers can't look away. Tan becomes the accidental truth-teller of the episode simply by being himself, because his authenticity throws Meghan's performance into sharp contrast. By the time the credits roll, what should have been a cozy, uplifting slice of lifestyle television has transformed into something else entirely. An unintentional commentary on branding in the influencer era. Meghan isn't just Meghan in this show. She's a brand, and this episode showcases just how exhausting that brand is to maintain. Every scene screams effort, and effort is the enemy of authenticity. You can sense the hours of production planning, the carefully storyboarded shots, the editing tricks meant to create intimacy. But intimacy can't be manufactured. The irony is that Tan, with his off-the-cuff humor and genuine warmth, ends up embodying everything Meghan wants this show to represent, and he does it without even trying. He's the real star of episode 3, not because he steals the spotlight intentionally, but because his presence exposes the hollowness of the performance around him. And that's what makes this installment of With Love, Meghan so oddly compelling. It's not great television in the traditional sense, but it's deeply revealing television. It's a portrait of a celebrity so determined to control her image that she's lost sight of what makes content resonate with audiences' humanity.